Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Wellbeing Show. I have a guest from across the pond over in the US joining us. Leslie, we'll say hi to her in a moment. Just to remind everybody, we record this as though it's live, but it isn't live. I always love to hear your thoughts and questions. Do send them to me on WhatsApp 07506 319 745. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, leave some comments. It'd be great to hear from you. If you see clips on social media, again, just comment. Let me know what you want to hear about. It's great to have you involved, and it really helps support what we're about. That's enough for me, I think. And just want to say hello to Leslie Lee Sanders, sorry, not Saunders, Sanders, who's joining us from the US. Where are you at the moment, Leslie?
Hello, I'm from Arizona in the
Yeah,
US. Yes, the desert, the hot state on the
that's
West Coast.
that's how we think of it over here as a desert. I went through Utah once, and I think Arizona was part of that. I drove across America once, and those deserts are as hot as they say.
Oh yeah. I'm
It's quite
surprised we're able to survive here half the time, but yeah, it's
absolutely.
beautiful nonetheless.
Is that where you were born? Is that your sort of background, your childhood? Was that
Born and raised, yes. For
right?
all 44 years of my life, I've been
Wow.
here. Yeah.
So, what was it like growing up sort of in the desert in the US? I mean, tell me about
Well,
your background.
yeah, growing up here, there was a lot to do with my parents and authority and teachers and so on and so forth, kind of telling me, uh, you know, don't talk back, don't speak until you're spoken to,
Sure,
raise your hand, that sort of thing. And so my life was kind of built on this obey type structure. Most of us have, we go through that. And so that's what I learned to do. I kind of sat still and looked pretty most of my life while
okay.
I figured out where I fit amongst society, amongst spirituality.
Yeah.
Because even then I was told things like, you're a Christian Baptist. I
Mhm.
didn't know what that meant as a child, but I followed those teachings because those around me kind of led me on that path. And it wasn't until later I questioned where I fit in that and
Sure.
if I truly, believed everything that was being taught to me or
Sure.
preached to me or, told me what it was. Yeah.
I sort of get the impression about America, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but parents are much stricter, I think, in some ways, British parents. There's an expectation that children will follow the orders of the parents, and parents have much more control over their children's lives.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it is. They're the
Yeah.
guardian, so they know what's best for you.
Okay.
And that's the same with all authority, with police officers and medical doctors and teachers and whoever is the adult, whoever is the preacher or the one with the authority and
Sure.
the expertise, we have to look up to them. Or
Okay.
at least it's pushed on us to
Yeah.
do so.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
things in America that parents can do which you wouldn't be allowed to do in the UK. For example, the whole troubled teen industry, where children get sent to camps in Utah, in the deserts, in fact, because their parents are upset about their behavior, and it's sort of like a boot camp, which you just actually wouldn't get away with legally in the UK. But that seems to be okay in the US. I mean, I know Paris Hilton has talked about having been sent to one of those camps, and I presume you're aware of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm aware of those troubled youth camps.
Yeah,
I think there's a stigma with that, in the US, at least with a lot of people that see it for what it is, how it's probably not the best for the children. There's a lot there that kind of mimics my own story about
does it?
being forced to show up in society a certain way.
Yeah.
And that goes from everything from telling us that, girls wear pink and boys wear blue
Okay.
to, anything that we believe in religiously or spiritually. It's kind of you're almost like, I don't want to say a pet, but you kind of think of it like your child I have to take care of you. So you follow my footsteps and you follow my direction and you'll be okay. But that's not always the case,
Yeah.
especially in my
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, I mean, there is that sense in which children are the property of the parents much more, whereas in the UK, the state would intervene much more in things, and there are certain regulations, etc. Are there differences between depending on the state? Are there differences depending on gender, color, etc.? Do those sorts of factors come in, or is it sort of across the board, do you think?
Yeah, in America, I know my history as a African American woman.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what it was like to kind of come from, the enslavement days
Okay.
and the Jim Crow days
Yeah.
and the segregation days. I thought that was over. I thought that we were progressing and moving towards something better for all of America. But upon the presidential election at the end of 2024, it just showed me that maybe it's not quite over. Maybe we're
Yeah.
still in this battle. And me being a Black woman in America, I often was silenced, not just as a kid and by authority, but I also see that I'm silenced in society as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places where my voice is not heard, is not welcome.
Sure.
There's a lot of places, a lot of structures, a lot of um, you know, systems that kind of keep a Black woman down. And
Sure.
not just Black women, but all marginalized groups,
Yeah. Yeah.
gay and lesbian, trans,
Yeah.
immigrants, whatever it is, there's always something that tries to keep us down.
Yeah.
And
And
that's when I,
there does seem to have been a retrenchment. I mean, then that's sort of happening in other countries as well. In the UK, we see maybe not to the same extremity as the US. In
right.
the US, it does seem extreme, and I've had a lot of colleagues and friends contact me because they want to leave the US because they're trans or gay or black, etc., and they want to leave because they no longer feel comfortable. Just quickly, so that people understand, Jim Crow. Can you just explain that term to people who are sort of listening?
Well, those were the days back in like the 50s in America where there were laws and rules that kind of systematically kept Black people in their place, in other
Okay.
words.
Okay.
We couldn't, there was like redlining and a lot of things that kept us from owning land or homes, a
Sure.
lot of things that kept
Sure.
us from, our votes being heard and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Segregation in the school, there's the white water fountain and the black, stuff like that. And
Okay.
so
Okay.
there's a lot there that I knew existed in my history, but I
Sure.
was surprised to see that it's still a fight that we're fighting to
Sure.
this day.
And certainly with recent rulings in the Supreme Court around voting, etc., there does seem to be a retrenchment into states' rights. And you're seeing this sort of quite strange, from my perspective, quite worrying changes taking place.
Yeah.
But growing up as a child, did you come from a large family, a small family? What was the sort of dynamics like for you?
Very large family.
Uh-huh.
I was one of 8 children
Sure.
to one single mom. I did have my father around for a little bit, but he actually was incarcerated when I was 5, and after that, our relationship just became
Sure.
non-existent.
Sure.
It wasn't a happy household with him around either.
Okay.
So a lot when he went to jail, the family celebrated.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
me being 5, I still didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I still felt like I wanted my dad around. But as I grew up, I realized some things. I understand why it was that way. And even though I don't want to put blame on my mom or him, I do see that we kind of we learn from what we know, from what was taught to us,
Sure.
from the state we're in, the place we're in at the time. We learn from the people around us. We only know so much. So I don't put it
There,
on there
there
to
are
be perfect parent.
intergenerational patterns, aren't there? And one would
Oh,
understand as
yes.
well, from my perspective, I would understand that with the structural inequality in society, that has an impact on people in terms of their quality of
Exactly.
life, their psychology, but also how a family might operate. So
Mhm.
poverty, for example, I presume it was a struggle for money because I can't imagine your mum was independently wealthy. And as a single parent with several children, in a country that doesn't really have a welfare system as such. I mean, I know on paper you theoretically do, but not really. Not
Yeah, I mean, it could be better. It could do
yeah,
more for the people,
yeah.
but
But
yeah, that's
we know the link
exactly.
between sort of racism, misogyny, poverty. All these things have direct
Yes.
negative impacts upon people. So I'm
As
presuming
well
that's
as
all in the mix for you.
Yes, as well as the incarceration of Black men,
Yeah,
especially because of the whole war on drugs, where it
yeah,
was kind of targeted to Black people,
yeah.
and that separated families, and that created a lot of, turmoil in the household. But even like I said, even with him there, it was a lot of turmoil.
Sure.
So,
But
yeah,
people,
with
if I
her,
talk about incarceration in America as though it's almost like another form of slavery, isn't it? It's a re-institutionalization of slavery. That's a theory I've heard about it because
yeah, well,
the
that's
prison system
exact,
makes the profit, doesn't it, off the backs of
exactly.
those incarcerated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think America is like the number one uh country that has the most incarcerated people.
Yeah, but it's
And
very
that's
targeted
because it's a
incarceration.
business.
It's not across the board. It's like there are specific groups that are
Yes,
incarcerated. So, I mean, it's the
exactly.
same in the UK in many ways. So, 98% of people in prisons are men in the UK. It's the same, a
Mm.
very high percentage and also if you're a black man in the UK, the response of society to any distress you might have is to use force, the criminal justice system, forced incarceration in hospital, etc., etc., etc. That is seen a different way. I mean, you referred to it that you wasn't so happy with your father there. I presume there was some violence or something like that. I presume.
Yeah, I would say domestic violence, yeah. And
Yeah,
it affected each and every one of us, the
yeah,
siblings, in its own way. And
sure,
to this day, it still affects a lot of us. What we went through, what we
yeah,
saw, the things that we learned from that, it kind of shapes us and how we are in our relationships.
of course.
There's a lot of generational curses or cycles that needed
Yeah.
to be broken. And I would say I'm one of the ones that actually broke some of those cycles in our
Good for you.
family.
Good for you. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very violent household as well. It's Irish intercommunal violence and all that sort of stuff. So immigrant
Mm,
family, etc.
right.
And I would say, similar to you, I made a choice to stop it at this point. I don't want it to go forward from me, and I've done the work to do that. So I sort of do.
Exactly.
I resonate very strongly with that. As a child, though, I guess it was just very confusing. You got your head down, you went to school. Can you tell me about the role of church? Because again, the UK, although it does have religion, it's not as pronounced as the US, and I don't think people understand how powerful certainly Christianity is in the US.
Well, Christianity in the US is big. It's become its
Yeah.
own kind of business.
Yes,
And
yes,
this is my opinion, but also there's facts in here.
sure.
It's become a place where it's all about profit. It's all
Yeah,
about money and it's all about power. And most of systems are kind of built that way. I didn't learn much about the word of the Bible. I was more interested in the stories.
yeah,
And to this day, story has always been in my heart. And so some of my favorite Bible stories were like um, uh, David and Goliath, Adam and Eve, um, Noah's Ark.
yeah,
Those stories where
yeah,
there's like something grand going on, and by the end there's like a message or some kind of meaning for all the turmoil and all the tribulations they went through, which I believe is what the Bible is. It's just a book of metaphors and similes and parables and stories that are meant to teach you a lesson
yeah.
about life and help you get through life in the best way. So I don't put too much emphasis on a God or Jesus or
Sure.
that sort of thing. I do feel like there's something more than us out there. I do feel like there's like
Okay.
something that we can't understand, but I don't want to put any man-made label on that. What
But
so what I
as a
do
child,
is,
though, I imagine it was quite doctrinaire that you were
yeah.
required to behave in a certain way, to recite certain passages, to demonstrate that you were compliant with whatever it is that they wanted you to be compliant. Is that
And
correct?
that's the good word to use, compliant. That's what it was. A lot of that is just structured about around how do we get you to listen to what we want you to do or say or believe, and anything else we will call it a sin or scare you, put fear in you about hell or that sort of thing, which I don't believe exists at all.
Yeah.
And what part of the stories that really captivated me was that it actually had meaning behind the stories.
Sure.
And that's where I got connected with storytelling early on. And then I would ask my mom to, tell me stories on her own because I was also into scary stories, horror. I
Okay.
was into the thing that was, you use your imagination fully. And so she would go there, she would tell me scary stories that usually involve like the devil or something kind of religious that I later realized these aren't true stories. These are just stories she's using to do like the Bible does and teach me a lesson. For an example, one story was when her and my aunt went to a nightclub and the devil came out of the ground, out of the floor in the middle of the dance
Sure.
floor
Sure.
and scared everyone until they ran out. And she told me, yeah, we shouldn't have been there. And, that was kind of the message she was trying to give to me as well.
And it's
Don't be in
interesting.
places where you're not supposed to
Yeah, I
be.
mean, it's really interesting to think about that film Sinners that won the Oscars
Mm,
recently, which was I thought a really interesting. I mean, I think it's a fantastic film, full stop. I mean, I really do.
yes.
But it's also really interesting in the way that the vampires become the heroes, whereas in very much in church culture in the US, particularly black church culture, that's an almost blasphemous message going on there.
Oh
And
yeah.
it seemed to me they were trying to say something about that, about challenging the sort of rigidity of sort of religious doctrine, which can uh, tend towards maybe social control, if that's not too
Yeah.
strong a thing to say.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've come to realize with not only America, but its systems in every form,
Sure.
from the judicial system to the school system to whatever it is. All of it is kind of designed to keep us in a box.
Yeah.
And I
Sure.
even realized this later in life after I became the writer I dreamt to being
Sure.
as a kid because of my mom and her storytelling. I was more inspired to see my name on a book cover. And
Yeah.
I would start by writing short, scary stories and illustrating the cover myself.
Right.
But I realized even though there was a lot in me that was being held back because I was told to stay silent and the systems around me kept my voice down and kept me feeling dismissed and discarded and like I shouldn't speak up, I shouldn't have an opinion.
Sure.
That's when I wanted to write and express myself through writing. And so I did. I've written so many stories over the years where I did just that, but I
I
still felt like my,
I really think that's a powerful message there, Leslie, about the power of
yeah,
creativity and the arts more broadly.
exactly.
It can be quite a liberation, particularly for people in marginalized groups. And I went to see
Mm,
a retrospective art show at a gallery here called the Tate Modern, which is of a female artist who was big when I was younger. I remember when she first came out, and she was the first female artist to talk about Tracy Emin is her name. She's a British artist. She was the first female artist to talk about women's experience, and she produced art around having an abortion. She produced art around men interfering with her when she was a child, and those very, and you're nodding like, yes, I know that. I know
yeah.
all of that.
Yeah,
Every woman I know knows
unfortunately.
all of this as well. And she was the first woman to give voice to that in her art. And it exploded.
Hmm.
Absolutely. You can imagine the sort of media response to her. And she was 22. And now
Yeah,
she's similar age to me. And she has a very powerful voice. But I just
yeah,
thinking about what that was like for her. But the core message is that because she was a powerful artist, she could communicate these issues. And I think you're saying something similar that, your engagement with story as an art form really hooked you in and you wanted to sort of work
right.
with that. So you could see the form of it rather than
Yeah.
necessarily the messages, which you might have agreed with or disagreed with, but you could see the power of that, I guess, in some way.
Well, I saw the power in using my voice in a way that was acceptable. So, in other words, instead of me coming out and saying how I really felt about the world or the society I was
Sure.
in, I used my words to creatively build a story so
Great.
others could see the message I had in me.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
at the same time, a lot of people still, it took them to decipher the message for them to get it. And
yeah,
so that's why I wanted to switch gears in a way, also because of the publishing industry. That's another system that
yeah,
I realized
yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of working against me.
yeah.
I've been in this business for decades, but I always had to apply to their rules and guidelines. I had to get an editor. I had to query them. I first had to make them believe that my story was something that they could sell. I have to write a certain genre. I have to be a certain person because this is what I realized in 2025 when I looked at statistics. What I wrote and who I am was not being represented in
Okay.
the publishing industry.
Yeah.
And that goes from editors, reviewers, the people that talked about books, the people that published the books, the traditional publishing, all up and down, Black women were always on the bottom. We were
Right.
always given the dirty end of the stick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the place I want to be where I have to fight extra hard twice, three times as much as my peers to be seen or to be heard.
Okay.
And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something I'm not used to doing, which is instead of writing genre fiction, which is not getting me the connection I want, I'm going to start writing something I didn't write before, nonfiction. And I'm gonna use the feelings I had over the 2025 and all the things I've learned and the self-reflection that I went through after learning how Black women are so just discarded in my society. I mean, Kamala Harris, literally the country said no to her,
Hmm.
even though I saw her as a strong, articulate, experienced Black woman. But what they saw was a Black woman.
Yeah.
And that just, from then I was like, okay, I need to put my words on paper, but be real, be honest, and make sure other people know that they have a voice that they could share
Okay.
too.
So you moved
Because
away from fiction to writing what, more autobiographical or historical? What was
yes, that's where Ready to Listen comes in.
right?
It's my first nonfiction. It's a
Is it?
spiritual self-help memoir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, and that was inspired by watching your country sort of regress, as it were, when Kamala
Yeah.
Harris,
Yeah.
sort of came up. I mean, I tend to think that, her boss should have got out of the way sooner. She didn't have much of a chance, really. She wasn't given much time in
Yeah.
which to.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a
But
great guy. He was a great guy, but
mhm,
she needed more time. And it did look to me as well that the US is so anti-woman. I mean, it really is. I mean, people who've not
it
been there
is.
don't get it. But the sort of
We're
toxic masculinity,
patriarchy.
really, very much so.
Yes.
I mean, extraordinarily so. I mean, it shocks me every time I go over there. It's sort
And
of really quite extraordinary. Yeah.
yeah, and you say that it regressed. I don't think it regressed. I think it just kind of unveiled its true
Did it?
colors.
Okay.
all this time, this is what America was. And this is why you probably know a lot of people who are marginalized, black,
Yeah.
trans,
Yeah.
gay, that is trying to get out. I
Yeah.
mean, I was one of those people.
Were
I
you?
knew as soon as his name showed up that he was the next president. I knew. I seen everything that would happen
Sure.
in my mind's eye, and all of it came to fruition. I even did a post about him wanting to be the next Hitler. And I mean, that is not far from the truth. I
I,
mean,
I
look
mean,
at the things he's
if
overturning.
if he could, he would. I mean, I think we're quite clear around the globe now that the
Yeah,
guy's out of control, has no guardrails, and is very dangerous for the world. I mean, that's it.
right.
And if you're in Iran at the moment, you're really regretting any support you might have had for the guy, right? Um,
Yeah.
so this inspired you to write this book. Tell us the title of the book again.
It's called Ready to Listen with the
Ready?
question mark.
Okay.
And the whole, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead, please. The whole.
The whole premise is behind not only are you ready to listen to me and my insight and the information I have for you that could help better your life because of the self-reflection I went through, deep self-reflection, deep spiritual connection,
Mhm.
deep knowledge that I want to share, but also are you ready to listen to the signs, symbols, and synchronicities of the universe and let's get our life back on track. And that is more for people that are stuck in a system, no matter what system it is, that feels like they have no power to change it. I
Mhm.
want them, others, to know that they definitely have the power to change it. And you feeling that you don't have the power is part of the system. It's built to make you stay small. It's
Right.
built to make you feel like you have no voice, like you have no ability to make change, like you're just supposed to sit there, sit still, and look pretty.
Yeah.
That's not what we are. And
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
remind people that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what were the sort of, can you give us some idea of the types of insights you gained about yourself and your own
Yeah.
personal history and your political history that you would want to share with us now? What were the things that I guess maybe surprised you even about that journey?
Oh, what surprised me, the first thing was that wanted to even speak upon this
Really?
subject, spirituality,
Okay.
because I'm so private that I don't even let others know if what I believe in, that I even believe in anything, you know? I'm so guarded and so quiet because of those, structures and systems
Yeah.
and all that was put on me that I'm fighting to get out of that and break out of that as we speak. But part of that story, part of Ready to Listen, is the story of how I myself through burnout and through wanting to pretty much quit the thing that I love, which was writing,
Right.
how I found myself in a box with my career and how that was keeping me stuck, how I wanted to be unique enough to, blaze my own trail and make my own path without following trends and following what other people are doing or what others are saying we should do. It's not about profit for me anymore. It's about getting my voice out,
Okay.
getting finally being heard.
Say
I did a
say
lot.
something in your press release. Sorry to interrupt, but you say something very interesting about burnout. Now, often burnout, and quite rightly, is viewed as a very difficult thing. It is a very difficult thing, but you have a different framing of burnout from your own experience, don't you? How do you think about burnout now?
Well, I think of burnout is a way your body is telling you that something needs to change. And
Okay,
it doesn't necessarily mean quit. It doesn't mean you're at the end of the road. It doesn't mean you have to absolutely make a complete 180. No, it just means it's time for self-reflection.
okay,
It's time for you to take a moment, do some self-care, and figure out what you really want. Because maybe what burnout is you struggling to fit yourself in a box or do what other people want you to do
sure,
or have a goal that other pressure was put on you to achieve.
sure.
you know when it comes to what this thing is and why is it so hard for me to like implement or complete or do, it's because there's something in us that's kind of blocking us.
Okay.
But only you could figure out what that is.
So
Just like what was
how
blocking
did
me.
your burnout manifest? Do you mind me asking what would sort of happen for you?
So I was a writer for a company where I was finally getting paid, right?
Okay.
But I felt like I wasn't getting paid what I was worth. I felt like I had to change who I was and my writing structure and the things that made me me to
Yeah.
accommodate them. I felt like I was being taken advantage of. I felt all these things, but at the same time, I thought, well, my loyalty will pay off. I
Hmm.
kept telling myself, if I stick with this, if I stay here, if I keep providing and do what they want, then it will pay off at the end.
Hmm.
And one of my books was set to become a a movie TV deal. I
Yeah.
was going through the talks with some execs and all through this company, which was my belief that this was paying off. But at the end of that, it fell through. And the way it fell through was even more blatant that this was not where I needed to be. But
Okay.
by that time, I had spent 10 years, 10 plus years in this scenario with my loyalty, doing all I was supposed to do to
Sure.
make them happy, but I wasn't getting what I needed in return.
Yeah.
So that caused me to stop. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't write anymore.
Sure.
And that was my job. I mean, that was what I was paid to do. And I struggled so bad.
Sure.
I almost hated it because of how hard it was to get on the page, to get on the screen.
Sure.
So I knew then that was the burnout and I needed to make a change. So I did what anybody could do. I took a bubble bath. A bubble bath, just me and myself and
Correct.
I, where I could ask myself the questions I need to ask. What do you want? What do you want? Where do you see yourself? What do you want to accomplish? What is your goals? What will make you happy? Things like that. And those questions, I kept digging deeper. Why does this make you happy? Why do you want that? Is it
Sure.
because somebody else wanted you? Like, is this what society says is success? Or is this how you deem success? And I just kept going deeper and deeper until I got to the root of the issue. And then that's where a lot of my insight came from. A
Yeah.
lot of spiritual insight too.
Okay. And the US, I mean, again, for people who don't know this, but the US is very much a work-based economy, a work-based culture that you're defined by your income, by the work that you do, the size of your house, how many cars you have, all that sort of stuff. It's so for an American to say, hang on, I need to rethink this. Have I made the right choice? Is quite a revolution, actually. Um, and it may be more normal in European circles, but it certainly isn't the norm in the US. So I appreciate that that would have been a difficult thing. Now, you talk about spiritual insights and spirituality. And so what do you mean by spirituality? Can you sort of define that in some way, what it is for you? As
Yeah,
opposed to,
well,
say, religion or politics, or what do you
mhm.
mean when you say spirituality?
Well, with religion, it's more of an organized, structured thing where you go to
Okay.
a building and you worship and you listen to the pastor or reverend and their words and you take it in, you repent, you kind of follow a structure. You can't do this, you can't
Yeah.
do that, sort of thing. Well, spirituality is the more open, free version
Okay.
because there's no structure. There's nothing holding, like we don't go to a place to worship. We figure out that it's all in us.
Okay.
What we want, the changes we make, the insight we get, the information, it comes from us because we are all one. Now, that's a whole thing that I could get into to explain, but essentially, we don't follow a certain deity, we don't follow a certain person, we don't follow a certain word or
Sure.
scripture. There's none of that. It's just pretty much right and wrong and how the universe connects with you individually,
Okay.
not through someone else.
And when did you get a sense that you were more of a spiritual rather than the religious person that you'd been sort of brought up to be? When did you get that sense of it?
Growing up and questioning everything,
Okay.
everything from who wrote the Bible, and why, why is if Jesus was born in Bethlehem, then why is he a white guy with blue eyes, and
Yeah.
why is his
Well, he wasn't,
disciples
but there
name
you go. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Paul, and
Yeah.
it's just those questions make me like dig deeper for the answers, and then I realize, okay, I finally see the structure. It's all about systems. And
Okay.
that's the whole thing I want people to kind of realize is like once you see how the cogs in the machine turns and you see
Sure.
how we're all part of that,
Yeah.
and certain cogs keep turning a certain way to keep you limited, to
But
keep
I
you
guess
in.
what I'm asking, what I'm interested in is because there would be from sort of from difficult religious experience, for example, there's a number of routes people might take. One of them might be, I don't believe anything, I'm not interested, I just I'm born, I live or die, that's it. But you chose that there was something spiritual, which is this sense of something greater than yourself. I'm not judging it's right or wrong, but I'm interested as to why you
Mhm.
didn't just reject everything and say, right, I'm going to go down this particular material. What
Yeah,
drew you to maintaining some sense of that connection to the oneness, if you like?
great question. That is my spiritual connections I have with my spirit team,
Okay.
who I call angels.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I call them angels because I was kind of raised in that environment
Yeah.
where
It's a
that's
comfortable word. It's a comfortable word.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty much just a consciousness, or a light being, something that is not a form spirit, and that it's intelligent enough to communicate with us in our 3D world from wherever its plane is, which is a spiritual plane. Let's say it's
Okay.
5D. We're 3D. And so because we are a physical world, we have to use physical 3D things to be able to communicate.
Okay.
So when they communicate with us, they use these things like, for instance, a butterfly is a symbol. This symbol could mean change or
Okay.
transformation.
Yeah.
So if we're in a state where we're trying to figure out if this job is meant for us, if this relationship is where we should be, if this is where we should put our time and energy into, and we're questioning that, and we see butterflies everywhere on TV, outside our window, that could be a sign from spirit telling us consider a change,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
Simple
mean,
as
butterfly is
that.
a metaphor in many cultures for transformation because of the pupal
Yeah.
stages. But for you, it's like you often use the word intuition, I think, as well. And is that a
Hmm.
similar type of experience that you want to
Yes.
emphasize? So tell me about intuition and why that's important to you.
Intuition is my way of saying how you connect, how you know, how you feel situations to know if it's good for you or not.
Sure.
So your intuition, your gut instinct will tell you if this environment is probably not the best place for you to be. I mean, you could walk into a room and kind of get a look around and feel the energy that it's kind of
I think
heavy.
we all
It's
know
kind
that
of,
one, definitely. We all
yeah. And
know that.
so that's the intuition. And I associate that with spirit. And
Okay.
that's how it communicates with us in
So your
certain
sense is
ways.
your
Like,
intuition is connected with this bigger thing, and that
yes,
you're refining that connection, if you like.
yes,
And
I
there's
like to call it the universe, but it's a consciousness.
okay,
And we're all part of that.
okay. And intuition often, I think, is used as a form of liberation as well, isn't it? Because the knowledge systems are power based and they're structured, academic systems, etc., etc. There are some texts are acceptable and some texts are not acceptable. And what is the definition of knowledge? Does that work for you? That it's also about this sense of political and personal liberation as well, emphasizing the sort of intuitive sense of your knowledge.
I'm not sure. I think
Okay.
when it comes to intuition, I just feel it as something like our sixth sense.
Okay.
I feel like even though we have five senses that to do, to do with sight and smell and hearing and feeling and taste and all that. Well, there's a sixth sense, and that's our intuition. That is a deeper knowing that not necessarily connects to like a factual thing around you that you could uh put up and measure, but it still gives you information and insight and
Yeah.
helps you with changes in your life or put you back on the path that you feel like you need to be on.
And
Certain things like that.
I'm really interested in because when people go through these quite difficult life experiences, like the burnout, or there might be other experiences for people, but we can all understand that. Some people transform in the way that you do. Like you see this as a transformer, you experience this as a transformative thing. It's almost like, metallurgical. I'm being sort of shaped by these
Yeah.
experiences, and some people are broken by them. I'm not judging either choice or either experience, but why do you think you were transformed by it rather than something else? Why is it, for example, that you still want to be involved in the world, that you're not just angry and rejecting? Because we could look at the world and it would make sense to just be angry about it, of
Right.
course, right? I mean, that absolutely makes sense. I wouldn't judge that in anybody, but you've
Right.
chosen not to do that. You've allowed this to be a sort of alchemical process, a phoenix rising type of process.
Yeah.
What do you think? Where do you get that from, do you think? What aspect of you is there present?
Well, personally, I feel that when I feel like I'm on a mission,
Okay,
personally. I
right.
feel like I
I
was
get that. Yeah.
placed in this area for this specific reason to make sure
Okay,
people know that they have a power. But also, I feel like we all do have the ability to tune into
sure,
intuition or anything that will help us better ourselves. As
sure.
long as we could figure that out and know that there are certain structures, certain beliefs, certain ideologies that keep us from opening our mind enough to have the help that we can receive
And
around
it,
us.
and that concept has been around for tens of thousands of years, in Buddhism,
Yeah.
Dharma and Dharma, etc. Find your
Yeah.
purpose and meaning and then go and do it. Walt Whitman, I think, even wrote that
Well,
as well.
Well, you also have to have that passion, the determination.
Sure.
You have to know it's possible. And that's where a lot of people kind of don't trust their intuition or
I see.
even
I see. Yes. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
realize, that that is a tool for them. Because you have to be willing to make change. You have to be willing. And if you don't believe, that is part of it.
Mhm.
Belief is a part of it. Even in religion, faith is a big part of it for different reasons, in my opinion. But in my spirituality, the belief is what helps you move toward that direction and keep you on that path. If
Sure.
you don't have belief, then why are you doing this?
Yeah.
If you don't have belief that you could change, if you don't have belief that you could change the world around you, your country, your neighborhood, your community, if you don't have belief, then you're not going to search for any tools to help you change.
And
So,
I think that's right. I mean, a sense of bigger purpose and meaning, particularly during difficult times, is makes the difference between people who survive and people who don't. Like if there's
it's
something
possible.
beyond this experience that is meaningful and beautiful and connected, and that sense
Yes.
of remain maintaining connected, but also it seems to me you wish to help.
I'm a humanitarian. Like
Right,
I was born, I was
right.
born feeling
But
connected to others.
I'm
And
sure, but your life has could could beat that that humanitarianism out of you, right? It would be perfectly reasonable for you to say, "Look, this is just life has just been too hard. I don't want
right.
this. Why do you keep trying to help? I mean, is there something wrong with you?"
Well, no, this is the thing. This is what
Right.
I believe. Okay, so we are individuals on this planet.
Yeah.
Okay, we're individual as we are our fingerprints on a
Sure.
hand. We
Sure.
are the fingers, but we're all connected to the hand.
Okay.
We are all the hand. And when we are connected to the hand, what is the body? The body is the consciousness. The body is the thing that, brought us into reality or gave us the intuition that we have, these
Yeah,
innate gifts, but we're all one. So the way I feel about my country, the way I feel about humanity and the world, the only way to change that is to bring us all together to make that change.
sure.
So if I just throw my hands up and say I'm through, then that's what it's going to be. Like
Yeah,
someone has
I get
to
that.
remind us all that we are able to make positive change if we believe it, if we focus on it, and if we know that we have the power to do it.
And I think that notion of empowering of self is fundamental. It really is. Because the world can feel very crushing, particularly at the moment.
Yes.
But if one can hold on to a sense that, well, no, but I exist and I can make choices and I can make choices that are consistent with my heart, then I think that is a liberation there. Very definitely,
Yes.
there is a
And
liberation.
every decision we make impacts others around us
Of course.
too. Every decision we make in our environment impacts the world. Every decision we make with our policies impacts the whole country. Like, this is what I mean. So if I want to see change, if I want to see positivity, if I want to see us to, unite, then it takes me to do it. So that's why I'm on this journey and on this path. And I hope other people will kind of awaken to that idea too and
Sure.
realize we're all in this together.
And I do love the idea rather than saying this is the way it is, you're asking a question. And questions are always very important. And particularly the question, are you ready to listen? Is probably the most important question we need at the moment because there's so many people shouting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much noise and so much disturbance and so much hatred. That sense in which, and I always find listening a form of meditation, to be honest. People often say to me, because I spent many years, many hours with people listening to people, and people would say, don't
Same.
get bored. And I'm like, no, being present and listening to another human being is a gift. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's an amazing experience. It really is. So asking, are you ready to listen? I think is a really important question. If people want to get hold of you or your book, I presume you do talks as well as produce books. Do you have a website where people might be able to get hold of you?
Yes, they could find me at llsanders.com.
Okay, and that's your
That's
website.
LLSANDERS
Great.
dot com.
And is the book linked to a book on that website?
Yes, it's
Is it
there and it's
published
also,
elsewhere as well?
yeah, it's also available on all online bookstores, including Amazon and
Great.
Barnes and Noble.
Great, brilliant. Well, look, I wish you all the best with this. It's been lovely to talk to you,
You
because we
too.
only see the really negative stuff about America at the moment, unfortunately, because there's a negative, loud bully in charge and everybody's fascinated by him. But I'm not interested in that guy. Long time ago. I'm more interested in you and people like yourself. The people I know in America are beautiful people,
Yes.
and you would
And
never
there's a
know that.
lot of beautiful people here.
Absolutely, and you would never know that if you just listened to that idiot.
True.
It's just not the America I know. You're the America I know. Really thoughtful, kind, compassionate, caring, intelligent people. And it's been a
Well, that's a
genuine pleasure
beautiful
to catch up with
compliment.
you today.
Thank
Genuine.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank
I
you.
enjoy our talk, so thank you.
Thank you very much. So you stay there. That's it today, folks. So do get hold of Leslie's book and maybe get us to come in and talk to some of the kids that you're working with. If you're working with kids, they'd be delighted. I mean, I think it's a powerful message of hope and liberation going on here. So thanks to Leslie for joining us. Thank you for joining us. And I'll see you all at the next episode of the Wellbeing Show. And have a great evening or great day wherever you are. Bye bye for now.